Hi folks, well here we are and welcome back. It occurred to me that I hadn't done one of my top 10 of everything videos for a while. So here we are with some films which, and this is purely subjective. That's a disclaimer before we start, purely my opinion. Of the top 10 films that I think are underappreciated or didn't get the critical acclaim it deserved, and it's just sort of like films that passed by without, much people noticing them in any shape or form. So I picked out the top 10 and a couple of, as I normally do with these, a couple of honourable mentions. But as I say, don't go to IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes and look up the ratings, because I'm dealing with what I see and know from the real world, talking to people, reading articles and what have you. So as I say, it's purely me, nobody else. Okay, number 10, Predestination. It's a film starring Ethan Hawke and actress I'd never heard of, to be honest, Sarah Snook. She's very good in it, mind. And it's about a temporal agent who goes on his last mission. And he's got this nemesis, basically, he's never been able to track down. And it is very, very complex, as time travel films go. It fried my brain the first time I watched it. Second time round, I still didn't get it. But it's one of them films that, you've got to watch about 3 or 4 times. And I urge you to do that, actually, but it's quite a film. So if I can just, I'll just swap my glasses for a minute. When I say unappreciated, I'll just, says on the back cover here, don't miss what is set to be the most talked about sci-fi thriller of 2015. Well, it wasn't. I think it should have been. So that's my first pick of the unappreciated and unrecognised. Okay, we're back. Right, now, second one is Gerard Butler, Olympus Has Fallen. Basically, it's a story, a terrorist attack where the president is stuck in the White House on his jack, and the only other person there to save him is Gerard Butler's CIA agent, FBI agent, can't remember. But these action thrillers are 10 a penny, but I thought this one stood out from the bunch, because there's so much good action in it. So, some good dialogue in it, some good lines. And it seemed to just pass with very little praise or very little recognition. And, for me, it deserves more. So that's my number 9 pick. Okay. Valkyrie. Yeah, it's not a film that, although Tom Cruise is in it, it's not a film that gets mentioned very often. When people sort of like do a retrospective of Tom Cruise films, it's not a film that jumps to mind, But basically, it's a Second World War film from the German perspective. But it's the German perspective of Hitler's own top men, if you like, plotting to kill him. Which, as you can imagine, might be a very dangerous and difficult thing to do. And Tom Cruise plays, all this switching glasses, I can only read with these ones. He plays Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg, and he ropes in a few other people high in the military and intelligence to get this plot going. And it's a really tense film. You don't normally have any affection or affinity with Germans in Second World War films, but I can assure you that you will in this one. Really corking film. I really enjoyed it, and as I say, it just seemed to pass by unnoticed, regardless of Tom Cruise being in it. So anyway, there we have number 8. Okay, Bronson. This is by one of my favourite directors, Nicholas Winding, or Winding, I don't know. I've never found out how it's pronounced. Refn. Nicholas Winding Refn, I call him. With Tom Hardy. And, it did get a bit of publicity at the time, but there again, it's one of these films that seem to escape the consciousness of the film fans after a while. And, I think it deserves more appraisals and praise than it got. Basically, it's about this character, I forget his name, it might be on here, Michael Peterson. That's it, Michael Peterson, who decides to go and rob a bank. And then his life after that just is one sort of stream of prison sentences after another, until he became Britain's most notorious prison inmate. And number one pain in the backside really for the prison authorities. But this film is done in such a way that you kind of you really like him. I don't know what he's like in real life, but this film paints quite a nice portrait of him. And there's a lot of weird stuff in there. I mean, some of the parts of the film are done in the style of an old music hall act, in the old music hall comedians. And he turns one side and he's a man, turns another side and he's a woman. That old trick. But it's a marvellous film. As I say, it should have got more acclaim than it did. But as I say, I like most of Nicholas Winding Refn's directed films, and Tom Hardy's great in this, and there's a few other good performances too. I urge you, if you haven't come across this, I urge you to pick it up and watch it, because it really is a good watch, funny as well. My favourite scene, I'll just recount you. I mean, it's a bit of a spoiler for those who haven't watched it, but I've got to tell you, this one, he takes a prison warder hostage for no apparent reason, actually, and the warder rings him up and says, "Oh, what do you want this time, Bronson?" Quite cool as a cucumber, he says down the phone, "What have you got?" I love that line. I absolutely love it. Right. Now, here's a film that got fairly savaged by the critics. And I really don't know why. It's a beautifully shot film. It has good performances from Jennifer Lawrence and Chris Pratt. And, the story is not unbelievable, quite frankly. I won't I won't give the main plot away for those of you who haven't seen it, in case you want to watch it. But yeah, I mean it's I mean the barman is a robotic barman who slides along on this wheel of some sort, and it's Michael Sheen, and I mean he really is hilarious in it. Because there's the barman, and then there's all the passengers that are in suspended animation. So I mean, he expected to be there on his own for God knows how long, but when he finally met somebody, oh, it's funny. Yeah, I mean, I just think that film deserved more than it got. I don't think it deserved the kicking it got from the so-called film critics, and I like it. So where are we? That's about number 6, isn't it? Right, number 5. Now, a couple of these films are in my top 10 favourites actually, but it's coincidental that they're some of my favourite films, and also generally unappreciated in my opinion. This is a spy come action come thriller adventure. Angelina Jolie's great. She does all her own stunts, I believe. Shriv Lai was great. And there's a Russian guy in it, I don't know his name. If I did, I probably couldn't pronounce it, and he's great as well. It's much like Olympus Has Fallen, although on an entirely different subject. It's action aplenty, and I don't know. This film just seemed to come and go without hardly a mention, as I recall. I mean, I've seen it 3 or 4 times, and I loved it every time. So if you're looking for a good spy thriller, get your teeth into that one because it's good. Okay, now this one might be is a bit better known to people because M. Night Shyamalan did it and Bruce Willis is in it. And actually it's, I wouldn't say I was a major Bruce Willis fan. I don't dislike him, but I'm not a fan. And I mean, this is probably one of his best performances, and if you're not familiar with it, the only reason I think it's underrated is because it's one of those films that is kind of, there's a lot of quietness in it, and I'm not sure everybody kind of got it at the time. It's a very understated performance from Bruce Willis, and it basically posits the idea: what if superheroes and supervillains appeared in the real world, and not in the world of comic books? And I just love this film. I think it's a superb film, and it certainly deserves more claim than it got. Of course, there's a trilogy now with Split and Glass that came out a couple of years ago. I'm not keen on those two. I think this is far and away the best of the trilogy. That's my opinion again. But yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen this, yeah. Okay, now we run into my top 3. This might be a strange pick from me, but because A, it's one of my favourite films, and B, I still think it's underrated. Viva Vendetta. Now, being Alan Moore, he got plenty of press coverage at the time, but it's another one of these films that seem to burn brightly and then fade from the public consciousness, if you like. And it's Basically, it's about an anarchist, if you're not familiar. There's a quote by Henry David Thoreau in a treatise he did called Civil Disobedience that, to paraphrase, it says, he serves the state best who opposes it most. And that's what this is. I think it's got a very important political message, especially for our times now. Much the same as 1984 has a relevance even now. And for me, this film's up there with Kane, Citizen Kane, or any of the old, or any of the new or old major films that you could mention. Gone with the Wind, It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, this is up there. It's got a message which is important and relevant to us now. And I think this is a superb film, by the way. Absolutely. And, it's you can buy it still. It's come out in the Titans of Cult editions, and I've got 2 Blu-ray versions of it. So, it's in the public domain, but I just think it's not appreciated as much as it should be. Okay, now we come into the serious stuff. Now, number 2, Ghost World. Now, I suspect there's a lot of you, well, I say a lot of you, I don't know how many people will be watching this, but there'll be a few of you watching this thinking, no, I'm not familiar with this. And I can understand that because it's based on a graphic novel, really, by a comic book artist called Daniel Clowes, who's not the most famous of people when Jack Kirby, Stan Lee, and Steve Ditko. These are the people. These are the comic book creators that people know. Daniel Clowes is an independent. So, Ghost World. It's strange that I love this film because, a 73-year-old bloke like me liking a film about 2 people that have just graduated, 2 young girls that have just graduated in America. It's not a likely mix for me, quite honestly. But it's done with such humour and, as you can see there, one of Scarlett Johansson's earlier films, Thora Birch. Steve Buscemi plays Seymour, who's a major character in this. You don't see him much in the graphic novel that it's based on, but he gets a bigger part in this. And I don't know, just the humour, some of the one-liners, especially that Seymour comes out with during the film, it's, excuse me, I'm getting a frog. It's just an amazing film, I love it. And you can only buy it on, weirdly enough, this is a DVD, as you can see, you can only get it on DVD, in this country anyway. But, I urge you, it's the adventures of 2 graduates, basically, but it's a great film. Trust me on that one, it's a great film. If you'll excuse me, I'll just take a little drink here because I'm going all dry and froggy. Right, let's see if we can get through the rest of it. Okay, my number 1 pick, Changeling. Now, I make no apologies for having 2 Angelina Jolie films in here because I adore her as an actress. And this is a true story. And it's any of you that have seen this and are parents yourself will know when I say that it's a heartbreaking story. It really is. Basically, it's about, without throwing too many spoilers in there, it's about a divorced woman whose son goes missing. for quite a while, and then suddenly one day the police turn up and say, "We found him." So you can imagine, the joy. And then when she goes to the station to meet him, things are not as they should be. That's all I'll tell you. But it's about the courage of one woman against all the forces of, I was going to say evil, all the forces of, I'm searching for the right word here, but forces of corruption, if you like. I'll use that word. And I mean, she's brilliant in it. I'm not a big fan of the Oscars. It's a load of BS to me. But, how this didn't win Best Picture. It was directed by Clint Eastwood, by the way. How this didn't win Best Picture, how she didn't win Best Actress is a total mystery to me. And ever since then, I kind of poo-pooed the Oscars. It's just a pat on the back exercise, really. So that's my number one. If you haven't seen it, it's an American edition, weirdly, but because it plays on my PS4, for instance. But I mean, if you don't own a copy, you can find it cheap enough, about £2 or £3, I would imagine. But if you haven't seen it, do watch it, please. I beg you, I implore you. So that's my top 10. Think of it what you will. And I've got a couple of near things. Unknown Liam Neeson. Basically about a man who loses his memory and somebody takes over his identity, and he's trying to piece it all together. That's all it is, really. But it's done in such a way as to be usually entertaining, usually what's the word? I'm running out of words today. Anyway, usually entertaining. Let's leave it that way. And this was criminally overlooked. This film, Jodie Foster in Contact. Everybody said, "Oh yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff in there that's too convenient." But if you actually watch the film, you understand why it looks convenient, but it isn't. It's about an astronomer. Is she an astronomer? I can't remember what they call her, but basically she looks after these radio dishes that are trying to find life out there. And one day, everything goes crazy, and basically she ends up going by luck, really. She ends up, Jodie Foster's character ends up going on the mission to try and find the source. I found it a hugely entertaining film, but a lot of people didn't. But there again, you can find that for a couple of quid. So if you fancy a look at Contact, it's a longish film, but Matthew McConaughey's in it as well. Well worth a look. Yeah, folks, so there's what it's worth. My top 10 of underrated, underused, underacclaimed, whatever you want to call it. I know that's not very good English, but that's where we are. So hope you enjoyed that one. Just a little filler. I've got 2 or 3 ideas for the next video, so I'll decide which one to use, and I'll be with you in probably a week or 2. So thank you for watching. Do keep subscribing, and bye-bye for now.